You're listening to the Digital Deep Dive, where we tackle the newest trends, strategies, and pain points shaping growth across the digital landscape. From Amazon and D2C to international expansion, join our host and e-commerce leaders across multiple industries for in-depth discussions on how to maximize your brands in the digital arena. Now, here's your host, Aaron Conant.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Digital Deep Dive podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Conant, and we are back again talking about checkout. And the reason I want to cover checkout today is it's just one of those experiences as we've seen all this rapid change in advertising and content and, streaming TV ads and everything that's out there. Detail pages, on-site search, personalization. What's crazy is nobody's touching checkout except for a few people, and they're seeing massive gains across the network here. And so, I have a longtime friend here, Avi from PrettyDamnQuick. They are changing the game. They're kind of that resource that a lot of the network is using right now, especially when we think about profitability, when we think about performance, when we're thinking about how much money we're spending driving customers to the site, and they're getting stuff in the basket, and then like sometimes not checking out, and we don't know why. If we can affect that piece for a pretty low cost, then it can be a game changer. And so anyways, Avi, I know I could probably lament about what's going on in checkout, but I'd rather talk with you about solutions. But I'd love to hear like your background, PDQ as a whole, what you guys are doing in this space, and I appreciate you giving us some of your time today.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on, Aaron. I mean, like you said, so much of the effort and energy, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that entrepreneurs by their nature, like myself, have an inclination for how do I get more people into my store, which is really important, right? Because empty stores are not going to give you a viable business. The challenge, though, in e-commerce, unlike retail, in retail, someone goes shopping into a store, they get to a cash register, you hear cha-ching, right? They're going to 95 times out of 100. They're going to complete that transaction because they took the time to go through the store, find the items that are relevant to them. They may put some items back, but they'll usually finish a transaction. Whereas in e-commerce, it's crazy to think that 4 out of 10 or 40 out of 100 or even a higher number abandon. They get to the checkout and they leave. That's a $270 billion a year problem. And it's a problem that everybody's looking at, everybody understands, everybody's seeing it in their reports. You're seeing those numbers. You look at Shopify and you're seeing those numbers come up over and over and over again. And there's this helpless feeling like, what can I do? It's checkout. We can't mess with checkout. Like, what can we possibly do? And when you think about it, if there wasn't the solution, you're right. But when you think about, let's say, email, no one would say, hey, let me just send one email out to my entire base of customers and say, come shop, at ABC store. Because you realize that there's a difference between a first-time customer, returning customer, high-value customer, subscribing customer. You're going to segment them as much as you can so that the communication's as personalized as possible and you're speaking to them in a language that's relevant to them. You recently bought a product. We'd love to see you come back again. You bought X product that goes really well with Y. Here's Y at a discount. But in checkout, there's none of that. It's one size fits all.
But why is it? And I think of it this way, right? Is like when you're talking about the real world, right? I should say actually going into an actual store. We've all gone into like the movie theater to buy a ticket, fewer now, I guess, post-pandemic. But when they have the gates that are set up that you have to keep walking back and forth, they're empty. It's completely empty. You're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's annoying, right? But I'm going to use it no matter what because I still want to see the movie at the end of the day. And that's what I get, from like checkout experience that hasn't changed, right? Is it's never been optimized. And the simple optimization is in a time where there's nobody, you just pull that one strap aside and you let people walk straight to the front. The reality is, I think, is when you get to checkout and there's been no change and people are frustrated, that's why they're going. You've made it too cumbersome. You make them walk back and forth 150 times before they get to the actual where they pay. They just want to walk to the front and pay like that. And
if you think about it, Aaron, The example we always use, the bar, right? The company that set the bar in the space is Amazon. You would imagine, and I'm very confident of this, that they have dozens of analysts sitting and watching every single movement in checkout to optimize the experience and ensure that every customer completes a transaction. And the results are there because there isn't a human that you'd speak to who, while they may have some complaints about Amazon, would ever say to you, I'm not really sure if I place an order on Amazon if I'm going to get it. I'm not really sure that if they're making a promise to me on the product page, that that's what's going to happen. They would say that there are times where it doesn't work out, and guess what? They make it right. And the reason for that is there's so much attention being put on that user journey. And we're emphasizing checkout, but really it's the personalized journey for the customer based on what their expectation is, embedding trust and confidence and taking them through that. Now, the way you do that is by being super clear and making sure that you're speaking to the customer in the right language. You know the difference when you walk into the coffee shop and they say, hey, Aaron, you want that, double shot latte? And you go, well, of course, thumbs up, you got me, you know who I am. It's a no-brainer. I don't even have to go through an ordering and transactional process. And there's none of that that's happening in e-commerce today because so much of the energy is when you pick up something in your left hand, they're showing you something else to buy. Well, hang on a second. Let me just understand that first thing. When am I getting it? How am I getting it? And the strongest indicator is the number of Wismo tickets. Wismo is where is my order? The number of Wismo tickets that come in on the same day that the order is placed is staggering. It's like 50% of the support tickets that come in are Wismo related. Where's my order? Now, no one believes they're going to get the order the same day that they placed it. But it just shows you that I placed the order, I took the time, filled in all my information. But honestly, I really don't know when am I going to get it? It's Thursday. Am I going to get it? You said 2 days. Is that Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday? Just give me an idea. And that's usually the follow-up question that people have. And that's, of course, for the folks that got past checkout. For most people, they say, you're leaving me with questions here. I'm not going to pull the trigger. Now, there's a lot of psychology to the equation. And honestly, our first approach when we thought about it is try and come up with just a best practices guide and follow it. Now, the problem with best practices are, number one, Shopify stores or any other e-commerce store that's not like Amazon, each industry is going to be different. The behavior of the customers are going to be different. The locations that you're shipping from are going to have an impact on the speed and cost that you're able to provide. So every store is going to stand on its own to some extent, which means that we needed to build it with an A/B testing platform and a foundation because you can't make assumptions. I can tell you so many unusual, these assumptions we came in with that we were proven wrong. Reduce shipping costs and conversion goes up. Not necessarily. There are sometimes you can actually increase shipping and increase conversion, right?
You're so right. There's best practices that have been shared that everybody has defaulted to as the easiest possible feel-good option.
Yeah.
Right? It's checkout, right? I've got so much content to produce. I have to worry about paid media, retail media measurement. I have to worry about all these different things, branding, website, new integration, let alone, every different, marketing and festival that's out there from, Prime Day to, Cyber 5 to whatever it might be, that when you default to the easiest option, yeah, it's better than doing nothing, but it's not optimized by any means, but I just talked to brands, right? And this is where they're at. This is
and it's exactly right. It's something where if you don't do it right, I understand the hesitation. Checkout, it's a critical place to be. No one's going to start messing with their cash register. No one's going to mess with their checkout unless you really know what you're doing. We're just fortunate. We've been doing this for over 3 years now. We process over 17 million checkouts a month. And there's a tremendous amount of learning. Like, for example, if you just followed Amazon blindly, you would assume that just offer the fastest delivery and it'll always increase conversion. Now, number one, most brands don't have the capacity to deliver the way that Amazon does. But number two, there are instances where the customer doesn't really care about the speed. They just want to know when. So I don't need it tomorrow. I just need to know that if it's not tomorrow or the day after, just tell me when it's going to come. And that communication is problematic because you do need to be connected to all the carriers, 3PLs, or if you're doing your own fulfillment, your own warehouse, you need all that data. And that's really where Amazon shines. Everything, when Sally picks up that, mug on Amazon, they know that Joe in Kansas City is going to pack it up in the, 3X size box, how much room there is in the box so that they can come back and say, Aaron, there's room in the box. You want to add something else because it won't increase your shipping. And they also know it won't cost Amazon anymore. They also know who the carrier is going to be, when it's going to get delivered. When you have all that information and you're able to share that information during the customer's journey, it changes the whole experience because I'm starting to feel like I'm in a retail store. I'm attached to the product because I know everything there is to know about it. I know the costs, I know the time, I know when it's going to be delivered, know what else fits in the box. And as you get closer and closer to that kind of experience, you start seeing conversion go up significantly. Like for us, brands doing $10 million or more in revenues a year will typically see close to $1 million in increased revenue. It's 10% increased revenue just by modifying their options on the product page, on the checkout page, and just taking advantage of the leverage you have to provide trust, even trust badges, Aaron, right? Think about it. Just the way you present and which options you choose to present to the customer. Like maybe show them reviews. If it's a first-time customer, show them your delivery on time rate. Give them the confidence they're just looking for, but present it to the right people at the right time. And that's the other piece of it, which is something we're particularly good at, is segmentation. Is as the customer's coming in, if it's a first-time customer, if you think about it, if you're a brand, you know the general lifetime value of a customer. You also know that the hardest order to get is the first-time order because you have confidence. You've got a great product. You're going to take care of the customer. You've got great service. But I just want them to touch it because once they touch it, they love us. So I know lifetime value for this customer is going to be $500. If you know that, why not just give them as much as you possibly can in checkout? I'll give you free expedited shipping, priority processing. I'll even give you a mystery gift in the box. Those are all things you can do today that can have a material impact on every single customer transaction.
Well, I just don't think most people know that it's available, right? I mean, because like you said, nobody is touching checkout. The stuff in the past, the personalized checkout was, oh, by the way, at checkout, I'm going to also, offer you, we want to fill up the box with a personalized recommendation. You bought a pair of pants, maybe you need a belt.
Yeah.
Right. Where you're kind of tracking them, but they were just, it was more focused on like the payment side, right?
Yeah,
rather than the holistic, like, and who are you? What are you doing? And how do I get you to trust me? Right. You're building trust, right? Like you're saying with the badges, like, hey, listen, just trust me. You're about to give me your money. And there's going to be a lag between that and when you get the product. Let me give you 9 reasons to trust me. And if you can do that, then I'm more likely to convert. That's the reality.
Exactly right. And then as soon as I'm done, present them with tracking information, show them that kind of the Pizza Hut kind of delivery thing where over communicate. And also you're going to fall short from time to time because you don't control all the different parts of the supply chain and delivery chain. So when you're going to disappoint, it'll happen. Imagine if you can be proactive and on your tracking page say, Aaron, sorry, I know you were expecting it tomorrow, but it's going to more likely be on Friday. And you say, but, or whatever, it's a day or two late, and say, but guess what? We're giving you a coupon for it. And if that coupon was intelligent and said, based on how severe a delay it is, how much there is in their basket, and give them discount to things that are related to them, suddenly you have revenues coming in in a situation where in the past, or the alternative is to disappoint the customer because you're waiting till it's late. Then they reach out to you. Then you say, we're sorry. Then you've got to figure out, what it is you're going to do with them. By controlling that, the delivery promise and making a promise that is going to be accurate 97, 98% of the time. And the other 2%, you're proactive because you're able to reach out to them before it becomes an issue. It changes the whole experience. And as you know better than I do, Aaron, there are many situations unplanned where you have a customer for life because of the way you react to that situation, or the way you prevented the situation, or the way in general you deal with difficulty. Many of us can handle customers in normal everyday situations, but the real test comes when unusual things happen. You've got a whole belt of hurricanes coming through a chunk of the country. People realize that things are going to happen. But if you reached out and said, look, I know there's a problem, I'm solving it, I'm on top of it, communication is going to solve so much of those challenges, both before the purchase and then continuing that after the purchase. And it's game changing. And I can tell you for so many of the leading brands out there that we have the privilege to work with, it's not just the fact that you have a customer who's now happy, which represents, retention, lifetime value. All those things are critical, but it actually is cash in the bank now. If you're looking at your checkout and you're looking at whatever the percentage is that's being left at checkout, you have real tools and levers available to you to change that, especially going into Black Friday, Cyber Monday, where many e-commerce businesses are going to make as much as 30, 40, 50% of their revenues in just these 2 or 3 months ahead. So it's a massive opportunity. And it's just an exciting place to be, I have to say. And it's not an easy place to be because we had to become both operational people and understand the operational components of a business, like the physicality of boxes, delivery, 3PLs, pick and pack, the hours that they stop picking and packing, just a lot of variables that you need to take into consideration. And when you have that and you have confidence in the promise that you're making, that promise combined with the pricing and understanding what your costs are in shipping and fulfillment, in addition to segmentation, where you're speaking to each customer as if you really do understand what's important to them. That first-time customer, trust, confidence, let me get you over the finish line because you're going to love us. The returning customer, give them a little bit more love. Say, I know you're returning, and because you're returning, I'm going to give you a special offer, maybe a discount on shipping, maybe something else that shows you're paying attention to them. All these things we do, like e-commerce does this so well everywhere else, except for
but not at checkout. Well, is it just that hard at checkout?
It is.
Because I agree with you. I mean,
I won't say it's easy. And there are components that Shopify has added, and those components are great because they add capabilities to checkout, and you can do things like upsell bars and all kinds of things, and we support all of them. The challenge is you need the ability to A/B test them. Otherwise, you're not optimizing, right? You're going to say, let me add this, like let me add priority processing, but you don't know whether or not the additional dollar that you're getting for giving that option is going to hurt conversion. And that's why it's challenging to do, because you really want to understand the implications of everything you're doing. And to do that, you need a platform that really takes the data from the moment the customer arrives on the site all the way through delivery and tracking, and creates that lake of data that Amazon has, and has the benefit of the analysts that are so important to understand. What are the things that move the needle? What are the things that impact profitability?
And you're able to segment that, then customer segment type to totally personalize then at the checkout, where then I feel like it's specific to me. But what I can't remember who it was I was talking to, Monocle, right?
Yeah.
Where they're doing customer, like custom couponing based on the person, right? Like that's very interesting. Like how do we get hyper personalized so that, like, I think like you were saying, like if you're returning, give them a little bit more money off or make them feel special. But if you don't think they're ever going to come back, don't offer them free expedited shipping on the first order.
Yeah.
What we're getting down to is, again, profitability.
It is.
Profitability.
And probably the way that, my favorite way of describing the business is being able to look at checkout from a profitability perspective. So we help brands set up and structure their businesses so that you understand your cost of goods, you understand your cost for fulfillment, you understand your shipping costs, which means that in checkout, you can actually use it as a way to manage your unit economics. There's so much effort and energy put into trying to make sure your unit economics make sense. So imagine if we have your CAC, we know how much it costs to bring this customer into the site. We know how much it costs to fulfill the order. We know how much your cost of goods are. We know how much delivery is. When you combine all those things, when Aaron's actually processing that order, if you hyper discount it, I could theoretically increase shipping to ensure that if you're going to place the order, I'm not going to lose money on the order. I have margin, and that's why we're in business, to make sure we're making money and not losing money. Or if I'm willing to give something up because you're a first-time customer and I understand your lifetime value, and actually a lot of our data is able to help even paint the picture clearly. Is Aaron going to be a profitable customer? Are you someone who returns a lot? There are a lot of other nuanced points of data that we look at, because ultimately we want to ensure the profitability of the business. And when you have control over all those levers, it transforms the entire business. Obviously, I'm not talking about like a mom and pop e-commerce shop. Typically for us, you need to be doing about $10 million a year. But like I said, as you ramp up, even at $10 million, it's going to look like $1 million in additional revenues to you. But as you ramp up from there, brands doing hundreds of millions of dollars, you're going to see, $5, $10, $15 million in additional revenue and profitable revenue. It becomes a game changer. One illustration, like one thing interesting, Aaron, like recently for us, and we came across it accidentally, but as you know, Shopify has moved from a 3-page checkout to a 1-page checkout. It's all part of their evolution of trying to have the best possible checkout that's out there. And it's an assumption that everybody kind of made with Shopify, that if they say that 1 page is better than 3-page, it must be better, right? Who's to argue? Shopify knows. Now, because again, they're not Amazon, they don't really know. They're making an assumption because they couldn't possibly test it in every single store in every single situation. So with our platform, we have that capability, and mind-blowing stuff, where going from, in some instances, from 1 page to 3-page, with certain segments, you're going to find that capturing the email, which you're not able to capture in an abandoned on a 1-page, but in 3-page you will, the value of having that email and being able to do follow-up is going to be greater than the speed and efficiency of the 1-page. So we're seeing all kinds of different situations, a lot of it broken down by the different segments of customers, where 1-page is going to have a different kind of impact than 3-page. And I can tell you, I haven't cleared it with the customer, so I won't say the customer name, but literally yesterday, they'll know who I'm talking about. But literally yesterday, we had a brand that tested their 3-page, which is what they're currently running, against 1-page, and they found that they generated $1.7 million annualized in additional revenue by going to the 1-page from the 3-page. Another brand that went from 1-page to 3-page increased their checkout by $2.43. So there's just, generally speaking, if I was going to give you a sense of like what are the general indicators, with single-page, checkout's best for quick impulse buyers, weekend buyers, high traffic sales events, people that want to get in and out. Through the 3-page checkout typically works with a committed high intent customer like a subscriber, repeat buyer, who prefers a more detailed and guided experience. So everything matters. Everything matters.
You got to be able to test. You have to be able to test.
Icons like a rocket ship matter. We've even taken options. So here's what anybody can do, right? So we want to give value. Take this and run with it. Everybody assumes you put your lowest cost option on top, then second, then third, right? That's how you stack your shipping options. Guess what? If your first option is free shipping, but you don't want everybody to jump on free shipping, just switch it. Make it the second option and make the first option a paid option that looks slightly more attractive than free shipping. And suddenly, all that money you lose by providing free shipping, you're actually going to have either a contribution towards it, or they may actually cover your costs just by switching those boxes around.
But nobody's doing this. Nobody's A/B testing because they haven't.
No, they're not doing it, Aaron. I'd say still like 2 weeks ago when we ran through about 100 sites because we scraped them and look at checkouts, there's still conflicting options on the checkout page. Please, if there's only one thing you do, look at your checkout and see whether you as a customer would understand when you're going to get the item delivered. If your first option is 1 to 6 days and your second option is 3 to 8 days, and your third option is 4 to 10 days, how do I do the math? How do I understand which option to choose? Because they all cover 5 days. So am I going to do I take an average? Do I read your shipping policies? What days of the week? You're leaving the customer with questions when you've already spent all that money acquiring them. Remember, once they're at checkout, all that money is spent. It's burnt. This isn't the Facebook ad where they're deciding, am I going to click or not click? They've spent the money. Everything, you're fully spent at this point.
It's awesome. But I guess it just befuddles me as to why it hasn't been touched. Now, I'm just thinking from a customer standpoint at this point in time. The more we're talking, the more you're describing all of our checkout experiences and the fact that it could simply be changed. It's like, what gets you most excited?
So for me, ultimately, I can see us moving to a direction. We're starting to understand when you think about mobile cars, right? I don't think any of us drive an autonomous car today. I've seen plenty of them on the road, but it started with semi-autonomous. Let me park for you because how much damage can I cause? And I can give you the confidence that I can park the car for you. So we see something very similar with checkout, where more and more of our recipes are able to be intelligently deployed in a checkout and say, let me understand, is this a first-time customer? What are the margins here? What are the options I should present? What are all the variables and criteria that I should prepare for this particular customer in real time right now? So instead of applying recipes that apply to you, Aaron, as a first-time customer, I can actually take all the variables, day of week, time of day, even weather, take the real-time variables and then feed them to you. So I build a checkout that's literally personalized and customized to you. So imagine if everything I just described to you happens by itself. Now, you can't go from non-autonomous to autonomous in a moment, but I can tell you with us internally, we're already using things that don't, cause damage, like imagine badges. I have a whole library of badges and we know what the reactions are. We can see the kind of reactions that people have when they look at them, they click on them. So imagine if we're able to dynamically choose a badge or a collection of badges based on what we know without the brand having to worry about which ones to choose. That would be autonomous, easy to do, low lift, and doesn't have a lot of implications if we get it wrong. But if you take that to its fullest level, what I'm most excited about are all these learnings that we're applying in these 17 million checkouts, 13 million profiles that we've built. We end up with a set of rules that are going to apply individually to every person who visits our site and can be personalized to them. That to me is extraordinarily powerful and exciting. We'll see those steps. We'll be taking those steps gradually to get there, but it's coming. That moment is coming, and it's an incredibly exciting and powerful moment.
Yeah. I've been picking your brain forever, and I totally appreciate it. It's I don't know. It's one of those areas. It's almost like on the Amazon side where it's as if people were to ignore the ad tech for Amazon for years, knowing it was there and just not doing anything with it and just trudging through, trying to manage it on your own as opposed to, getting a tech that helps you do it. So, yeah, but anyways, I digress just a little bit. I'd love to, I don't know, any questions for me as I've been just peppering you with questions?
Look, going into, BFCM, it's such an important time of the year. And like I said, such a big percentage of business happens during this time. What's your general sentiment? How are you feeling? There's so much going on. It always feels that way, right? But there's so much going on. You got elections followed by BFCM, economic indicators, the Fed. There's so many different variables. How do you think consumer sentiment is going into this holiday season?
So I know just from the brands I've been talking to, number one, I don't understand how the market keeps just skyrocketing up. I don't understand it. I don't pretend to, because the brands I'm talking to have pretty much said like, hey, there's fewer people out there spending money, and the amount they're spending is lower. Notoriously, Americans love to spend money in Q4. It's the holiday season, and they like to be with friends and family and show appreciation. So, I mean, if I carve it out into like traditional grocery run, everything's the same, right? Yep. If we start getting into gifting, I think the higher end gifting items will be down some, but the mid level, I think everybody's planning on a cool, a pretty good Q4 as a whole. The one wild card, I don't know if you saw like Bye Bye Baby just is closing all of its stores and it's going all online.
Wow.
That's the only thing that's, and so
wow.
Is this pendulum swings back and forth.
Counterintuitive. Yeah. That's counterintuitive.
Right. And so it's going almost all back online. And so, right, the pandemic hits and everything goes online and everybody scrambles. FOMO sets in. Everybody's signing up for every tool ever to help them win. Nobody knows how to use them or integrate them all. So the pendulum starts swinging back. They start trimming them out. People are going back to stores. There's a huge push. Everybody wants to be on store shelf, right? And in that move, they've neglected .com, and now they're seeing like, actually, people a lot of times don't want to handle the holiday crowds. And so there's this push, the pendulum is swinging back. But the big thing right now with those brands is profitability. Yeah. And a lot of them are just throwing up their arms and saying, I can't be profitable online. Now, that's different than what Bye Bye Baby was just saying. But a lot of these mid-tier brands said, I can't be profitable online. I just have to be in store. And I don't agree with that. I think what I'm seeing now with these new tools that are popping up, the AI, machine learning, the tools that I think for the longest time, it was the mechanical Turk, right? Like these companies were saying, we have AI, ML, use our platform. It's $12,000, $15,000 a month, $20,000 a month. And it really was just overseas, hands on keyboard overnight, and then came back with an answer in the morning. And brands didn't care. Like, as long as they got my answer, I didn't care how you got it. Now they can't afford that option. And we're actually at a point where this new tech that's popping up can crunch data and do tasks in near real time. And it's cheap. I mean, it's $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a month. Where if you can get rid of all the garbage tools that were just tools created for some people to make a quick buck in the tech sector right after the pandemic hit, and you can get into core things, right? Like a PDQ, an Arita. There's a lot of these players out there touching the email piece. You can get a much leaner, more robust tech stack with fewer people at a lower cost. And if people will take a look and see that, there's a lot of money to be made still in addressing the profitability. And yeah, maybe you don't make quite as much. You make a few percentage points less than being, on a store shelf and you're shipping a full truckload. But there's one more piece I'll jump into, and I'll kick it back over to you, is that if you do have that direct to consumer site what Amazon is doing with their paid media and their streaming TV ads, which will be, I did a podcast with Adam Epstein over at GG, what they're targeting to do. If you can have a pixel on a direct-to-consumer site, you can dump it in the Amazon Marketing Cloud and do an exact lookalike and take off anybody that's been to your direct-to-consumer site, so you're not retargeting, and just hit an exact copy of that shopper out of the Amazon ecosystem and drive them back to your own direct-to-consumer site via their DSP. That's worth a few percentage points that you're sacrificing. And looking at the direct-to-consumer site from an R&D eye as well, that, hey, we might lose some money, but overall from the company as a whole, just like an R&D budget is sunk, it's gone, but it comes up with nuggets that make you a lot of money. Like, it's an interesting time. That's what it is.
Just on that Amazon front, it's a strategy that we invoke as well, where there's always a percentage, typically a percentage of revenues coming in through Amazon. We know how costly they can be, and you lose the brand and the connection to the customer. But we'll replicate. We'll actually identify, tag that Amazon customer coming to the store and provide them with something comparable or competitive to what Amazon is, because you can afford it, right? Think about, you now don't have the Amazon margin. You get much more aggressive with that customer and keep them. So taking that pixel concept even to the next level, you end up, and you just need to be agile. You really do. I mean, today's brand owner just has to be on the cutting edge, and you see the folks that are, I don't mean just, wantonly download apps and wander. You need a very deliberate focus, first and foremost, unit economics, profitability, and then say, what else can I do? And how do I make this a flywheel so that every new customer that comes in is going to matter?
I totally agree. I think the unique thing, and again, like what you're doing is you're able to do that all underneath one platform that's cost effective and drives revenue. In the past, that was 4 different people that they were trying to interact with, right? To try to crunch all the data, track all the traffic, look at, using maybe a triple whale, or how is it all working in your case, that everything can come in underneath one platform and tackle a bunch of those, maybe not all of them. But that was the other thing, is I have to go do, 4 RFPs. Forget about it. Especially right now, I have digital teams being cut, like people being cut.
One of our brands mentioned, like, before we used your platform, it was a bunch of walled gardens, and today it's like the Garden of Eden. And not so much like paradise, but the concept that if you don't have all your information in one place, how do I even understand it's Aaron? How do we even know? How would I know that you recently had a bad experience with support? How would you know anything there is to know that's going to ultimately influence whether or not you're going to complete this purchase? So doing that really becomes important. And I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share. And I do feel like it's our responsibility to lead this thought leadership. I don't think the message is out there clearly enough and loud enough. And our brands have been incredible ambassadors for us, but still not enough. Got to get the message out there. So I really appreciate the platform. And I'm hopeful for everybody that owns a brand today that we see an incredible BFCM season. I think a lot of it will benefit from having elections done before BFCM. So some of that doubt and lack of clarity will be behind, and hopefully we're going to find consumers back spending the way that they have in the past. I don't think we'll ever lose consumerism, and hopefully it won't be a year that disappoints.
No, I don't think it will. And again, Avi, thanks so much for all you do for the network and the brands that are in it. Really appreciate you and everything that you guys have built, and encourage everybody, follow up with Avi Moskowitz here, PrettyDamnQuick.com. Look him up on LinkedIn. And check it out. It's a fantastic platform helping tons of brands here. And so with that, Avi, thanks so much. We're going to wrap up this episode of the Digital Deep Dive. Thanks everybody for listening in. Thanks, my friend.